Ladies and gentlemen, I am finally back. I managed to kick the cold, like 98% of it. I'm still a little bit congested. It had me down for the count. Let me tell you, I was sneezing about every 10 seconds, which is the most annoying thing in the world. My keyboard has still not recovered from the amount of snot that has been accidentally sneezed on it while I was trying to play Odyssey, and of course Call of Duty Black Ops 4, which just released this past weekend. What I wanted to do was come back then with a shorter feature episode of The Mo Show. I wanted to sit down with you guys and talk about a very specific subject matter that is tied to the release in my playtime of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Let me make it clear. I really love Odyssey. It is one of the best RPGs I have ever played. It seriously is that good. It is incredible to see how far the franchise has come and the way in which the team at Ubisoft who worked on Odyssey has been able to take the things that they sort of dabbled in with Origins and really push AC to a point where, yes, I agree, it's not really an Assassin's Creed game anymore, but that's the beauty of it. They're able to hold on to the brand identity that is Assassin's Creed, use that as a marketing and selling point, but make something new. Make something that is now a full-fledged RPG, and I think better for it. It really is a spectacular creation. It is also, which this is very much a part of today's discussion, ridiculously huge. It is so massive. Not just the scale of its world, but the length of its campaign and the amount of content that it harnesses within its world. It is just bonkers big. If you are someone who complains about bang for your buck and thinks every single game should have 100 hours for every $10 you play, this is that game. This is next level Ubisoft world scale. Now that typically comes with a lot of caveats. The game's quality usually suffers, and I think that was the case with Origin in many ways. I will say that I feel Ubisoft has mastered the world building aspect of it. Odyssey and Origins are both incredible worlds to explore, and I think Odyssey does an amazing job of ensuring that you're rewarded for actually exploring the world. If you just want to go out and explore a giant open world, Odyssey is probably one of the best games ever for that. It's on par with The Witcher 3 for me. It seriously is that good. It really is, guys. I'm not messing around. I think it's that good. And when it comes to the scale of the world, I don't think it actually suffers as much in the realm of quality. There's actually a lot of really good side quests here. Again, this is why I think people are drawing conclusions to The Witcher 3. I've seen some people get salty and be like, it's nothing like The Witcher 3. No one is saying it plays like The Witcher 3 or presents the exact same experience as The Witcher 3, but in terms of RPG structure, I do believe this has some of the strengths within its design that The Witcher 3 had. A massive open world that is filled with interesting things and interesting people. Odyssey definitely has that going for it. I've actually enjoyed the side quest, and even when they're not that interesting, I think the real kicker here is that my main character, Cassandra, is really well written, really well voiced, and just a very exciting character to join on an adventure. So the game's got a lot of strengths, and I think those strengths actually managed to beat out the ridiculous scale and the negatives that typically come with it. That all being said, we finally arrive at the core of today's discussion, which is that I still find myself distraught with the size of the world. I shouldn't actually say the size of the world. Let me make it very clear and very specific here that I am actually frustrated not with the size of the world and not with the amount of content that's provided, but the amount of content that I have to push through to actually see the game through to its primary end. The story, the end of the story. I mean, we're talking something that's well over the 20-hour mark, probably well over the 30 or 40-hour mark, and that's where I start to have an issue with it. There's a part of me that says, hey, this game's massive and I'm enjoying it, so why not play it for 40 or 50 hours? But there's another part of me that says, I play a lot of games. There are other games on the horizon. I want to spend time playing games with my friends. There are people out there who simply don't have the time to put in 50 hours with a game like Assassin's Creed. Now, if you're someone who loves bang for their buck and just wants something because they buy a game once every 6 months, this game is perfect for you. The problem I have is that the majority of the time when we look at achievements as a basic fact-checking element for the completion of games, we see that these massive open world games, no matter how good they are, have an incredibly small number of people actually completing achievements that are tied to completing the game's main story. I can bet you in 6 months from now, if we take a look at the achievements just on Xbox, let's say, for people who have gotten the achievement for completing the main story, it will be less than 20%. I think that really does demonstrate that these games are simply too large. Now, in a lot of cases, we could say that the scale is pointless. It doesn't add anything to the experience. And I think a game like God of War demonstrates that you don't quite need this scale to still make a really beautiful game. But I do believe there's something about a really massive open world, like the world that Ubisoft so often builds. I do think they're spectacular. I think the exploration aspect of them and being able to explore something, knowing that my friends probably won't explore the same thing, definitely makes the open world special. The scale does matter here. I don't want to play the card of, oh, it's pointless, it just brings in a lot of negatives, because I don't think that's completely true. The real problem I have is that we don't have more ways in which we can experience the main story. You see, I'd be fine if I could boot up Odyssey and select 2 different ways to play. The primary way being how it was intended. Here's the massive open world that is Odyssey. All of the level scaling is the way we've designed it, so you have to play some of the side quests. This is our intended experience for Odyssey. But what if you're someone who likes the idea of exploration, who likes the immersion factor, the beauty of being able to play and experience a game in such a large and ridiculous world, but who simply doesn't have the time to make it from start to finish of the game's campaign with that amount of required content? What if the second mode was a story-driven mode that allowed us to play through the game's campaign with crunch numbers? Less side quests, perhaps only side quests that are directly influencing the main story arc, if there's any of those at all, and a scaled leveling system. So we're not required to run those side quests because maybe they don't exist, or maybe some of them exist, that allows us to get through the campaign in half the time, maybe 20 hours rather than 40 or 50 hours, you know, depending on how that campaign is set up in terms of its initial length when played in the meant to be played way. To me, that would be a beautiful compromise, and I would still play the game. You know, if there was this concern for, oh, well, we're going to lose people, the whole game's as a service thing. Number one, that's going to happen anyway. People are just going to be like, I can't finish this. Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming out in 2 weeks, or Fallout's coming out in a couple of weeks, and I want to play with my friends. Black Ops is already out. I want to play with my friends. You're already losing people anyway. Again, look to those achievement numbers on these massive open world games. People are already leaving. To me, this would be such a powerful tool for allowing people to experience the campaign and the stories that people are putting so much time and effort to at the studios like Ubisoft, and then give them an opportunity to go back after that, like when they complete the game, and just play through the rest of the campaign. The Witcher 3 actually did something similar to this with its expansion. You could go and play the expansions with a pre-built character, so you didn't have to run through the entire game just to gain access to that higher level content. It was smart, it was intelligent, and while it's not exactly what we're talking about, it is the idea of allowing individuals to get to the story content that matters. I would love to see Ubisoft do this going forward. I think this would be a perfect middle ground. And again, you would still get to experience that ridiculously huge open world. It's still there. The immersion factor is still there. The scale is still there. And you get to go about your own little path within that world. And I think that actually makes that open world that is so large that much more special. Because just like the real world, which is so large and massive that you'll never see all of it, you get to play a game, experience your own personal path through this main story, make your own decisions along the way because player choice is a big part of Odyssey, and know that you haven't seen everything. So you still get the special bits of that massive open world experience, but you get to experience the main story. To me, this is just something that I think desperately needs to happen, because I understand that not every game is just suddenly going to become God of War. While I do think that is kind of the path forward that I would like to see open world games take, where they're more curated and everything's more purposeful, the better these giant open world games like Odyssey get, the more I really do see the value of an insanely large open world. Again, I just wish we could personally curate it as the player, or have alternative ways in which we could experience it, so important parts of the game and its world aren't left untapped. It's not a big deal if you don't explore the same cavern underwater that I did, but it is a big deal when so many people aren't even able to see the main story through to the end. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. More importantly, I'd love to know what type of person you are. Is a game this big valuable to you? Do you think to yourself, yes, that's exactly what I want. I want a game with the main story that's going to take me anywhere from 30 to 40 to 50 hours to beat. I want a game that is really going to give me the maximum amount of content for my dollar. Or do you find yourself in a position where you're like, I'm never going to finish that, but I really want to because I really enjoy it? Let me know your perspective, your thoughts on this very common problem with open world games down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Again, if you'd like to support the Tony Mo Show and other work I do, you can do through via Patreon. You'll find the link located down in the pinned comment section below. A huge shout out to everyone who's been supporting me on Patreon for many, many years now. You guys are a huge part of why I continue to do this. You're also a huge part of how I get my hands on a game like Odyssey, which is typically just not something that I need for the channel, so I can play it and talk about it on something like the Tony Mo Show anyway. I hope you guys have a killer week. I will see you very soon for more Anthem and other related discussions.
You have been brought here for a purpose, the most important task of your